everyone. My name is Chris Tennyson. I'm the theater director here at Alvin Community College. And today I want to spend a little bit of time chatting about uh, something I think that we all know a lot about, but I want to give us a little time to focus a little more intentionally on that and think respectively about our individual programs and how we can increase a sense of community, foster a more engaging community atmosphere, and how that affects academic success and student success in the long term, even after leaving their educational institutions. A little bit of background about me. I got my undergraduate at the University of St. Thomas here in Houston after attending Alvin Community College for 2 years from 1993 to 1995. I went on to work in professional theater and education for the last 25 years. I got my master's degree from the University of Arkansas, where I spent some time teaching and running a nonprofit organization in Northwest Arkansas, and then had the pleasure of being able to come back here and get to work at a place that is as meaningful to me as ACC is. So, that being said, I've had a lot of time in my career to balance or walk in between the world of professional theater in this case and the world of education. And what has come out of that for me is an acute understanding of how important a sense of belonging and a sense of community is to creating successful academic students, not just students who enjoyed their college experience and had a fun time, met their friends, but also engaged in their department, engaged in their academics, and really created kind of that lifelong love of learning that's carried with them after they've left their institutions. So, with that being said, that's kind of an overview. Let's jump right in. Uh, so, why is community important? Uh, the first thing I can say is because community leads to retention, retention, retention. We know how hard that can be here in a 2 year setting. We know how hard that can be in a college setting in general. So, Vincent Tinto, in his work Student Success and the Building of Involving Educational Communities, talks about how important community is in regards to retention. Tinto lays out about 9 factors, he says, that are the primary reasons that students leave their academic institution. Academic difficulty, of course, we all understand that as faculty members and instructors. Adjustment issues. Tinto points to students not necessarily being able to adjust to the increased responsibility, the increased autonomy, adjustment issues as far as maybe they're not at a college or a school or a location that had a social group they were used to. In addition to that, other factors, goals. Tinto explains that actually what can happen is as you move through your college career, your goals can evolve and change. And maybe that means transferring early without actually graduating with an associate's degree, or it could mean moving past the need for higher education into something else. Other factors include uncertainty, financial issues, integration and community membership, issues, meaning they can't find their people here in a college setting. Incongruence, which is one I didn't know about until I read this article, and this is that sense of uh, 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 feeling adrift when you are in a place whose values you don't feel like necessarily align with yours, or whose overall schema and point of view are out of sync with your own value set. And then the last factor that Tinto mentions in his article is isolation and the feeling of loneliness and not again having your people there. Uh, what I think is interesting about this is if you look at this list, uh, I can move forward. There we go. Over 50% of these factors are directly tied to community or lack of community for our college students, for the people who we're trying to help integrate not only into the college experience, but into the workforce and into kind of the world writ large. So I found that to be really interesting, and it just reminded me, and hopefully will help point you all to the fact that one of the most important things we can do as faculty members, yes, our content mastery is extremely important. Our ability to communicate that content mastery, it's extremely important. But being able to create spaces where students can find a sense of belonging, a sense of community, that seems to be, based on the research that I've done, one of the larger factors in not only academic retention, but then further to that point, academic success in the program as well. Uh, so, what are the results of community engagement? Why do we care, right? Uh, Looking at a study done by Jessica Chittum, Catherine Inke, and Ashley P. Finley in 2022, done out of the AAC-NU, they have found several markers of academic success that tie directly to community engagement. Some of those being increased social and personal responsibility that directly affects GPA, attendance. It ties into pride in work that the students are turning into you. Community engagement can help develop positive mindsets and dispositions. Of course, we have the improved graduation and retention rate. We also have learning gains. We have development of intellectual and practical skills, increased career-related skills. Coming from the world of theater, one of the things that I talk to my students' parents about, or my recruits' parents about a lot, is the fact that there are so many soft skills that get developed in a college setting, in a college environment, that it isn't just content. It's about learning to create boundaries for yourself, learning to be an advocate for yourself, learning how to work and exist and do normal things like conflict resolution, and all these things that when we put our students into a community environment here in our college campus, we aid in building that skill set. The other thing that happens as a result of community engagement is ownership of programs and the educational experience. Students who feel connected to their programs and their departments, students who feel connected to their campus, have more of a sense of ownership over the place that they're getting their education. They take more personal pride in that. And on top of that, that creates a much more fulfilling experience, not only for the student, but also for us too. I don't know about you, but I love seeing students when they're lit up and activated and enjoy being here and on campus and doing the work and going to the student center and engaging in the events. It's a really, really nice feeling. Um, Now, I will say at this point, here's a big caveat. I know that I come from a different perspective than a lot of the folks who are probably tuned in right now. Uh, I have on average about 35 contact hours a week with my students. I have them in classes, obviously, but because of the nature of rehearsals and production, I spend a lot of time with my students, helping them engage in community, helping build that community. So the things I'm going to put forward may not necessarily work for every single one of you sitting there right now, because each department, each discipline is different, has different challenges and different opportunities to create that community engagement. Let's move forward. So, the first thing we need to identify when looking at how we create community is looking at what our community is here on campus. Who are your stakeholders? When we're talking about what is community engagement, who are we trying to engage and who are we trying to get them to engage with, right? So, our first obvious place of community is the classroom itself, is the learning space. The other students, you yourself as the instructor in that class, that is our first level of community. Now, there are admittedly new challenges, things like the predominance of online classes and our 8-week classes. They present unique challenges for our faculty. It decreases the amount of time we have to build that community and create assignments and projects around building community. And on top of that, when you're especially in an online presence, that the lack of face-to-face human interaction can definitely aid in things like isolation and poor community integration and those other factors that Tento discussed when we talk about why people leave their place of learning. So, on top of your classroom, other stakeholders, we have your department, your program, right? Your fellow faculty members, your department coordinators and assistants, your adjuncts. This is all part of a bigger community that you can tie into and you can help activate for your students. We also have the campus writ large outside of your department. We have events on the campus. We have different functions and things of that nature. You have the city, right? In our case here, it's Alvin. I know there's some folks from other colleges joining us today. So your city in a larger perspective, and from that point, we have Brazoria County or your larger area, whether that's the Clear Lake area or the Houston area or whatever your particular zip code is. When we think about community, I like to think about it holistically, starting from the classroom and expanding all the way to your county, your city, that larger area, because that's where your students live for the most part. That's where your students are doing all of their non-student stuff, right? And so getting them to see that there's a through line from that classroom all the way to their businesses and their shops and their movie theaters. All of this is something that they can and should and will benefit from engaging. And as we do, I mean, again, a lot of this stuff is not, I don't think it's revolutionary, right? I don't think anybody's going to walk away from here today going, wow, I didn't really know that. What I do hope you walk away from here today with is, again, an intentionality in going into the classroom and trying to engage your students, right? So now that we know what our community is and who our stakeholders are, what does engagement look like for folks? So for students, there's a lot of different things that community engagement can look like. The first one is office hours. I know that sounds crazy to a lot of folks. One of the things that I require all of my students to do is to engage in office hours at least once during the semester with me or with any of their other professors. All they need to do is get a little signed thing that said, yeah, the student came to visit me during office hours. Because one, I find without fail, students who come and sit with me, even if it's 10 minutes once a month and ask a couple of questions, do better in the classroom. They feel more supported. They also perform better during class times because if they can come to my office and ask me questions and engage in conversation they can engage me in conversation here in my office for 10 minutes, then they're far more likely to engage in a class discussion or engage in conversation in the classroom itself. So I find office hours to be extremely useful for student success. I try to incorporate them and use them as much as I can. And I will freely admit, I don't think this is an idea I stole from another professor. So we all get good ideas from each other. So pass that along. Other places that student engagement is noticeable, service learning projects. I try and do service learning through our Parks and Rec, through our daycare centers that we work with the Children's Theater Festival. We'll talk about that in a minute. We all know what service learning is. And if you can tie it to your learning outcomes, if you can tie that into the overall focus of your class, I have found not only does it create a new avenue for students to engage with the content and the material that is different from some of the more traditional modalities, it gives them something to latch onto that gives them a sense of belonging. It reduces that isolation. It reduces that lack of community activation. Right. Department functions. Now, again, I understand that my department functions a little differently. I will talk about my department, though, hopefully to spur ideas for you all. One of the things that our department does is we have weekly majors meetings. Does every major show up every meeting? No, absolutely not. Of course not. But what it does is it lets our students know that there is a time and a place where they can go and find not only their faculty, but they can find their student body. They can find their cohort. And we probably have about 90% attendance on our weekly staff meeting or majors meetings. On top of that, we bring guest artists into the department to do particular workshops for our students. We do a 3-day masterclass series once a semester that will bring in a guest artist from a particular discipline in our field, and they will spend intensive time working with our students. We have group field trips where we will go, if we're working, for example, when we did the Diary of Anne Frank, we took the cast and the department to the Holocaust Museum as an opportunity to expand the lesson planning behind the show and look at the educational objectives behind doing theater at a college campus. But also, it took them into Houston, which I was shocked to find how many of our students here at ACC have never even ventured into Houston proper. I thought that was bizarre. But because of the socioeconomic situation of a lot of our students, transportation issues, family issues, a lot of our students don't get out of Alvin. So if your department, if your program can find ways to help connect them into the bigger city, connect them into what's happening, whether that's Manville or Pearland or Clear Lake or Angleton or Danbury, exposing them to life just off the campus is surprisingly helpful and something that I didn't realize our students hadn't really engaged in very much. Inside the classroom, obviously, group projects, opportunities where you can make your students an expert, right? If you have the ability, for example, my script analysis class, the way we've structured that class is it is almost completely student taught. We read about 16 plays over the course of our 16-week course. And the first 2 or 3 plays, I guide them through analysis. And then after that, they are assigned in pairs the rest of the plays on the reading list for the semester. And it's their job to reproduce a lecture based on my lecture or discussion based on my discussion for the rest of the class. I have found this to be an incredible tool for unlocking student autonomy and unlocking student advocacy. I have found, I was talking to a colleague of mine the other night, I have found in recent years, and I'm sure there are a lot of reasons why, but I have found in recent years that a lot of our student body has become terrified of human interaction to some degree or another. I know if I'm seeing it in theater students, I can't be alone in seeing this from other students in the student body. So what I have found is just the mere fact of making students claim knowledge over material and stand up in front of a group of people and present themselves as the expert on the material, whether they have mastered the material, and some of them do, and some of them less so, but we know how that goes. Just a confidence boost that gives them to be able to do that creates an interest, creates a new neural pathway right? That goes, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Now we have possibilities. Now students are starting to think outside of their own worldview, right? Which is another thing that community engagement is really important for, is it's helping our students think past their own limitations. I don't know, again, how particular this is to each of your own individual disciplines, but I find a lot of my students, their biggest enemy is themselves and their lack of ability to believe in what they do, right? And so if we can foster that kind of confidence in them, that's going to go such a long way to making them enjoy being here. And when you enjoy being in your educational environment, that creates a relationship with learning that's going to outlast their academic career, which is one of the things we're all shooting for. Is, I mean, at least for me, my goal is to try and make lifelong learners, right? Um, and then, of course, community engagement opportunities. Where are those opportunities for your students to go out into the community, whether as volunteers, whether as doing student research, surveys for classes, pushing your students out into the community in ways that maybe make them a little uncomfortable at first, but also helps them break down that fear of interacting in society, right? So, that's what engagement looks like for our students. What does community engagement look like for our faculty? Right? The first thing is we have to create classes and classroom spaces that are actively engaging the students. I will freely admit I am a bit of a Luddite when it comes to a lot of new technology. I will freely admit that I grew up and most of my college experience was me sitting in a desk getting lectured to by someone smarter than myself, and I took my notes and then I was tested on the material. And I would imagine that's what a lot of us went through as well in our academic careers. And of course I have the hubris to say, well, I turned out just fine. That should work for everybody. But it's very obvious that with the advent of new technology, shortened attention spans, a world that is not the world we all grew up in or lived in, we have to meet students where they are. We have to meet students in a different way. And one of the things that I talk about in the entertainment industry a lot, especially I have an extensive background in working in theater for young audiences. And one of the things that is a conversation in our field right now is the fact that it is a rare experience for your students to not have control over whatever it is they're interacting with, right? We were talking about, for example, a lot of the things they're interacting with on the internet, games, Twitch streams, a lot of the social media content. It is about an interaction. It isn't, I'm going to go sit and watch Gilligan's Island today, and when that's over, I'll turn it off and go watch something else. Students today are used to being able to interact with the thing that they're working on, studying, viewing, listening to. Even if it's as much as sending comments out into the void, there's still a form of interaction. So if we can use that to our advantage, we can use that as an opportunity for us and engage our students in the same way in a classroom setting. Finding projects that mimic their social media use and creation, finding ways to engage the class in discussion, again, making students experts in situations. All of these things work together to give that student a sense of belonging, give that student some community membership, reduce isolation, help them adjust, and again, ultimately, keep them here and get them graduated, transferred, or into the workforce, right? Um, so what do we do with that? We have this, we know what it looks like now. Let me finish the list here. Other things for faculty to do is you have to be a visible member of your community. Um, And again, we talked about what community is. It's your classroom, which hopefully you're all visible members of your classroom. You have to be visible members of your department and your program. You have to be visible members of your campus community for sure. A lot of us don't live close to where we teach, so being part of the city community or the county or larger community, that can get a little dicey at times. But and I can speak for ACC specifically. Usually, at least once a week on campus, there is some sort of function or activity, whether it's a club fair or an art exhibit or a campus tour or a bigger event of some sort. There is an effort constantly made by student life to put engaging activities in front of our student body. Um, our students enjoy seeing us in public, which is weird. I get it, I guess, but it still throws me from time to time. But when my students see me over in the student center looking at the art exhibition or at the table walk or doing the walk for wellness and things, there's a sense of, oh hey, you're here, I'm here. Look at that, that's really cool. And it energizes them and it activates them. And it again helps weave that fabric of community that's going to make our students want to stay here, want to be here, and want to get their degrees here, right? So being a visible member of your campus community, being part of the social fabric of your institution. Again, I know that with those who teach online and out at TDC, the prison systems and all of this, that it's not always easy or even possible to be a visible presence on campus. But when you can, I absolutely encourage folks to, because I think you will notice a marked difference when you see how your students react to seeing you out in the wild, right? Sponsor student organizations if you have time, if you have ability. Shana Sutcliffe and myself. Uh, uh, oh, yes, Brian, that's an excellent point. Please be visible in your online classes. I have a lot of my students who come to me who are taking their online classes and they don't have any concept of who that professor is. They are basically a set of directives from an email that come out once or twice a week. So that's a really great note, Brian. But yeah, sponsoring student organizations. Shana Sutcliffe and I, we co-sponsor the Pride Alliance here on campus. What it has done is it has put me in touch with parts of the student body I never would have gotten to interact with before. Parts of the student body that I never would have even come up on my radar because they wouldn't have come into my classrooms. They wouldn't necessarily come into the theater space. So if you have the ability to sponsor student organizations, it's a very fulfilling way to spend a little bit of time. And again, it helps students become activated in membership and we know this, that identity is so important, that membership, that lack of isolation. I'm going to keep coming back to this over and over and over again. Yeah. And then the last thing, just because I thought we'd start it and end this section both with this concept of office hours. Um, Again, not possible for everybody, and I can only talk about my personal experiences and hope that they may allow some brainstorming ideas for you and how you can help build community in your respective departments. But things like whenever I try to, weather allowing, have office hours with my door open always. I try to be in my office or findable. For those of you who've tried to find me during my office hours, I'm usually downstairs in the theater. But my students and people know where to find me. And I'm there and I'm ready to be engaged and I look forward to that time. So, make sure that you are finding a way to enjoy your office hours as well. So, you will all appreciate that I resisted the urge to put in the Montel Jordan song. But how do we do it here in the Department of Speech and Drama on campus? And this is what I want to spend a little bit of time talking about. Again, I understand that I am in a unique situation because I have an extraordinary amount of contact hours with my students. We also are a functioning service department on campus in the way that some of your other departments may not be or may not have evolved into yet. So this is a great picture here of our students on a float. We have not done this in a couple of years, but for about 15 years, Alvin Community College Theater was regularly involved in the high school graduation fireworks and community parades and frontier days. We are still currently involved with the Holiday in the Park events. I know that the community band, for example, plays for the 4th of July celebration. So finding ways to get your department out into the community, even if that's just putting up a table and doing, a fun science experiment at a community kids event or a fair. These are ways to help build visibility. It's also a way for me to send my students out into the community and have them start to feel the power of what that connection does to them. Yeah. Um, Here are some other things. Here you can see our drama students participating in, I believe that was the Fall Festival on campus. Here, we use our lobby space to activate other organizations. We've had art displays and art exhibitions from the art department. We've had counseling and wellness come in and set up tables before and during productions. We've had local choirs come in before productions. So finding ways to activate your space, not just for you, but for your community as well. Here are some of our students who had done some volunteering at Froberg's Farm before our production of Anne Frank. We did that in exchange for fresh strawberries for the play. It's okay to be transactional with your community engagement sometimes. But again, this got us out into the community. It got our students meeting people, talking about our program, talking about what we do to parents, to other people at the farm. Uh, in addition to that, again, this is our tech director and facilities coordinator, DC Stell. Most of you know him and love him. He's here. He took a student over to the Student Center for the 75th anniversary retrospective that they did over in the Student Center. And again, it's about being out, being engaged with our community, whether that's on campus, whether that's in our lobby, whether that's over by the fountain. Being out there and talking to the students, getting to know the students, uh, engaging with them as real people. And then the other, probably the biggest piece of community engagement that our department does is for the last 40 years, we have produced 2 shows for young audiences every summer. We do one in June, we do one in July. Here's the merciless plug. If any of you have young folks who are looking for something to do this summer, we have auditions coming up in May for our shows. It's a great experience. Last year we cast over 70 children over the course of the summer. We bring in daycares and homeschool groups from all over the area, as far out as Missouri City, Texas City. They will come in to view our shows. It gives our students several opportunities. One, it introduces our students to the concept of teaching, because they are in that rehearsal setting, behavior modeling for those students. They are in there leading the warm-ups. They're in there playing games with the kids. It's putting them on a path to become an educator down the road. The other thing it does is it gives them confidence. It connects them to a larger community. It gives them a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose, which ultimately is what this entire presentation is ultimately about doing, right? I think I've got some more pictures of us doing. Yeah, this is the colossal cast of Alice in Wonderland last year. It's a lot of kiddos. We also run volunteer programs. We have a sign up through our box office, another merciless plug. Anybody wants to volunteer, you can hop on over to our website and find a volunteer form. But it's another way to engage the community and engage our students in the community. We've had volunteers who've come in that have led to job creation for our students, that have led to expanded networking opportunities for our students, that have even led to educational opportunities because a volunteer would come in and go, oh, I went to this place, blah, blah, blah. And, oh, I didn't even know that college existed. And now we have a new pathway for our students. So, this is a very fun picture down here of last year's production of The Big Friendly Giant with some of the young folks and community members who came to see the show. And again, it's you watch these two cohorts come together, you watch these two populations intermingle, and you see it change your students. You see it bring something different out of them. You watch them grow up a little bit. You watch them understand their place in the world and their relationship to it. This community engagement, to some degree, I do it for the same reason that I do theater, which is to lessen the distance between human beings. Yeah. So, just to kind of highlight what was in all those pictures, places that we have activated ourselves as a program and a department into the larger community, the Summer Children's Theater Festival. I and several of my students are regular volunteers at Alvin Parks and Rec. Again, we work on the holidays in the park. We volunteer with other departments. We worked with the communication department quite a bit. We've worked with psychology before. We've worked with the history department. This, again, just creates this atmosphere of community that crosses disciplines and unsilos me as a professor, which is great to be able to work with departments I'd never get a chance to work with if I really just stayed focused on my own silo. Yeah. We have had great success working with the health sciences folks on their Disaster Day event, which, if you have not experienced that, is wonderful. And that's coming up in April. And it's a wonderful training event. And again, a really good example of how departments are thinking outside the box to really build community on campus. We work very closely with recruiting on Discovery Day, campus tours. We participate in on-campus events like wellness walks and club fairs and program fairs. We have active social media. Now, again, we have to do that because we're trying to sell tickets. A lot of you are not trying to sell tickets to Anatomy and Physiology or Chem 1, but that social media activity, again, if you reach out and engage your students with that, it gives them that sense of belonging. It gives them that sense of community. Oh man, that's my teacher who did that video about how solutions work, or, how the anatomy of the throat works. It creates this larger sense of belonging to your program. The other thing we do is we create spaces where students can speak from a place of expertise. One of the things that we have started doing is allowing our students to present mini workshops. They have to send me a proposal. They have to send me a lesson plan, which immediately right there teaches them how to start writing proposals and lesson plans. And then after working with them, I give them about 4 hours to gather our student body together. It's no different from if anybody had the brown bag lunches when we were in school, where people would share different research topics they were working on, different studies they were doing. It's the same general idea, but again, allowing students to stand up at the front of a group of people and speak with some sort of authority engages them and activates them and makes them think about themselves in a way that they have not thought about themselves before, right? And that's ultimately one of the keys to engaging our community, is getting them to think about themselves in ways they've never thought about themselves before. So I am curious, now we're kind of in the last little phase of this. I want to kind of talk to you all, get feedback from you. One of the things that I'm curious about, right, as we consider strategies to enhance student engagement. Would any of you be willing to, whether in the chat or raise your hand and talk about it, talk about things that you could do? Can you identify 2 things that you as a faculty member or an administrator could do to help engage your students more? Brian, yeah, thanks.
Yes, sir. So, I've actually been conscripted for Discovery Day to be the guy that sits on the bus that's going to help move students from the gym to the science building. And
Yeah.
I've been told that I have to wear my tie-dye lab coat. I'm like,
Yes.
oh man. No, I'm just kidding. I'm excited about it. That's kind of going to be a really fun thing. But
Well,
talking about that itself, some things that you can do with outreach for itself. I mean, I've been people have asked me, why have you not made like your own little Bill Nye the Science Guy videos? I mean, that would be something kind of fun and exciting. Um, my daughter, for instance, has really shown a keen interest in science. She really likes, playing with like test tubes, and she's a very extroverted, outgoing, excited person who wants to do all these fun different things. And I mean, I've even videotaped her doing a little science experiment. It's pretty cool. I mean, it also helps that, both her parents are science professors, which is kind of fun. But yeah, I mean, get involved with your own kids to get them excited. Haley, your son loves science. I love that. So I'm going to pick on Haley for a minute. Her son loves doing science things, and he was just doing like a little science fair type thing recently, right?
Yes, he loves science. I do not. He loves science and math. So I outsource that to my friends to help him, because I'm like, I have zero ideas on this STEM fair. I can't even fathom it. However, I am surrounded by people who this is their life's work. And so let's reach out to them and get some help on this, because I have no idea.
Well, and right there, to that point, thank you, Brian, thank you, Haley, because part of what I have found is, this entire presentation ultimately was geared toward how community engagement can enhance academic success, but the lessons go upstream too. I have found that I have needed the engagement of my greater community of faculty and colleagues here on campus, being able to work with other departments. And I'm going to use Brian as a great example. I think Brian has talk about someone who's visible in the campus community, whose energy just is captivating to students and is fascinating to students, and it's that kind of openness and excitement for being here that we all need to find in ourselves. And sometimes that's found a couple doors down. I know that I have had some wonderful opportunities for my students that came out of me just really liking some wonderful colleagues, and it grew into a much bigger piece of engagement. So yeah, we have to stay engaged for ourselves too, because there is reward there, and it is fulfilling to feel like you are part of a larger community here on campus as well. Anybody else? And again, there's no requirements. Anybody else feel like sharing a couple ideas they might have, or things they could add to their classroom before I challenge you all with the next question?
Hey, this is Daryl. I can add something real quick. I did get asked to participate in the Discovery Day mini demo.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do that, and I actually have my student who's a student that's going to participate and help put together the little quick thing that we're gonna show the rolling of juniors and seniors that are going to come through that day. So we're kind of getting ready for it, but we're going to do paper airplanes.
Oh,
so
that's
we're
awesome.
going to have them make paper airplanes. And we're going to discuss, of course, the aerodynamics and the engineering and the science of it, try to, get that point in really quickly. But this is one of my engineering students who's going to join me in doing this. So I'm really excited that she's going to do that. Plus the adjunct is going to join in too. So so that's what we're going to do. That's just a little example. But yeah, I got asked to do that. So I said, yes. And at first it was going to be like thermodynamic ice cream. That was the suggestion that was made. but we narrowed it down to just one thing, which is going to be paper airplane. So we're gonna
I feel like you chose wisely.
Yeah. We're gonna put the ACC logo on the paper. We're gonna put "Do Not Litter" on the paper, but they're gonna make paper airplanes, and then they're gonna go out and measure how far they go, and I may have them come and return with some data. So that'll be.
That's awesome. And yeah, those are the that's so great, because right there you can see there's an increased visibility on campus, there's department representation, there's cross-pollination between students and faculty, full-time faculty and adjunct faculty. Like those are, and you know, thank you for mentioning that, Daryl, because it reminds me that so much of this community engagement all kind of locks in together, right? Like when you focus on getting rid of isolation, for example, or you focus on how can I address isolation in my work as a faculty member, well, you're also going to be addressing the issues of community membership and adjustment issues. And so all of these things are so interconnected that it really doesn't take a big kind of effort. It doesn't take some Sisyphean sacrifice to really check a lot of boxes around.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm doing 3 and 4 and 5 things just by being at Discovery Day making paper airplanes, you know?
It was interesting because the way that I convinced the student, I was like, the way that you really test your understanding of this is when you have to explain it to someone else. Right. And then she was like, yeah, so she's taking time off work and she has the day scheduled, and I'm excited for that. That's going to be nice.
Yeah, and really well said, Daryl. One of the other reasons that all of the community engagement reasons aside for trying to create spaces where students can speak from a place of expertise is primarily what Daryl just said right there, because you are so right. Learning to be like, you cannot convince yourself you have content mastery until you can explain it to somebody else, and putting them through that, because I have found a lot of my students don't talk about what they do with their parents or their family. They have a peer group here on campus that they discuss with, but they're not teaching their parents what they're learning in stage makeup or voice for the actor. And so they don't really get a chance to put that information back out and restate it in their own words, and kind of reframe it from a place of understanding and content mastery. So that's awesome. Yeah. Now, here's the big challenge here, and I'm curious to see if anyone wants to throw an idea into their ring. Is there something you can start on Monday to improve and strengthen your students' sense of community? Like, take a second or two to think about it, but is there something that you could implement starting Monday that you go, yeah, Brian?
I don't mind volunteering. That's kind of one of the things I like to do. So I won't be able to implement it Monday the 3rd, but I want to implement it Monday the 10th when the second 8 weeks starts. So for Gen Chem 1, we are piloting the implementation of online lab kits. So students are going to get a lab kit sent to them that'll have a couple of different material items, equipment items, where they can now do a hands-on lab experiment.
Wow.
And for me, it's exciting stuff. I mean, there's a lot of safety things that are in place for the students. They have lab coat or aprons, goggles. There's a lot of safety protocols that are in place. So we are being very careful about this as well. But I'm excited to watch my students, work on these things and to build community in the online class. I'm thinking about creating a Teams group and letting students kind of talk about their experiences and also kind of fill out a little bit of a survey. That way, even though they're in that online space, they can still interact in that virtual, Brady Bunch square kind of thing.
Absolutely. And just having pieces of content that make you feel, or pieces of equipment that make you feel like you're in a classroom setting, is going to go such a long way to making those kids invest in that class and hopefully in the program and so on. I'm curious, it has nothing to do with this presentation.
Sure.
Was that a grant? Are the students paying a fee, like a materials fee for that? How did that happen?
So it actually kind of started. During Hurricane Beryl, I got an email from a lab vendor company, and I was talking with my dean about it. And with that discussion, kind of started hey, start taking a look and seeing what's out there. And then we had meetings, we got demonstrations, we got live demonstration kits. I know at least geology's also shown a lot of interest in things. One of the companies that we worked with, and Nancy can kind of talk about this, they brought some really cool stuff for anatomy and physiology that they can implement in their face-to-face classes. So there's a lot of cool stuff that's out there. Paying wise, right now we're kind of working on that. Our department's paying for it this semester because it's a small pilot class, but we're working on, like, I need to write an innovative grant to see if we can cut back on the cost for it, because I mean they are a little bit pricey. They do run
Sure.
about 100 to 120 bucks, but it is an opportunity for us with the innovative grants to possibly get those kits a lower cost for our students.
Yeah. And that's fantastic. And to kind of highlight something that Brian is talking about, and I know if you haven't yet, you will soon. We've all taught in an online learning space. We all know about the unique challenges online learning spaces present for lots of reasons, but I am of the opinion, and it's my opinion, there's been no research put into this, that one of the hardest things to do in the online learning space is create that sense of community and engagement. Like,
Oh, I agree fully. Like, it is really hard. And I mean, you can only go so far. Like, it's like that line in Hitch. I can go 90, but I can't go the whole 100.
yeah, yeah, no, and I think that's right. And I will. Something I had to get over when I started teaching in the online space is I personally felt that a lot of the things that I was doing to force engagement were cheesy, and they felt very much like the only reason I was doing them was to force engagement. I've come to the understanding that that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Like, rather force the engagement in a way that may feel awkward, but at least leads to engagement, than keep it a sterile learning space. Right? You have to. I found that I had to come to grips with the. Does it feel weird to ask them to start conversations every 2 days? Yeah. Why am I doing that? Because I want them to connect. I want them to become a learning cohort and not 25 individuals on a journey to, uh, their own place.
Oh, yeah, definitely. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I see that with the learning communities that build in my lab classes. Like, the groups, it's not just the people that are working together, but the groups that are like across from each other or next to each other. The groups of students are interacting. It's not just the students within one group, it's the groups that start communicating and talking about data and talking about, so how did you do this process, or how did you do this process? Because I like to let my students kind of I like to let them get their hands dirty. I don't want to be the helicopter professor who walks around and scares the students. I had a TA like that, and I dropped a 70-degree Celsius round bottom flask once. It was not fun. The crazier part was this guy picked that hot flask up with his bare hands, no problem. And I was like, dude. Anyway, this is a different time period. This is the early 2000s. So yeah.
But yeah, again, to Brian's point, that I had a student about 2 years ago, a major here, who was very gifted until I walked in the room, and then forgot everything, didn't know how to do anything. And there was a particular project they were working on in their last year, and I literally I hid out. I told the staff, I was like, I'm not going to be in the theater a lot, because as soon as I do, this person is going to forget everything they knew about tech theater and lighting design. And sure enough, when I wasn't around, they were able to problem solve. They were able to work through that themselves. They were able, and so part of building community and engaging your students is also knowing when they need the distance to be able to stand up and become that expert. I was in Amanda and Misty's presentation earlier, new student Who Dis, which what a great title. I saw that and I was like, why did I name mine something so boring? Anyway, one of the things that they were talking about, which I didn't quite understand, was how increasingly involved the parents have become in our students' educational decisions. I mean, I don't know that my mother ever stepped foot on the ACC campus when I was a student here, let alone go to the Welcome Center and register me for classes. So to that point, we are seeing a cohort of students who, by design, seem to not be built for self-advocacy and self-actualization, right? So sometimes the best thing we can do for that development is to take a step or two away. Yeah. Any other last minute thoughts? I'm done about 5 minutes early or so, but I can. That's fine. But if anybody has anything else to say, thoughts to add.
Yeah, this is Daryl. Just real quick, one thing that I'm thinking about doing is having poster sessions where the students kind of stand in front of, folks walking by and asking them questions about their semester projects. But it would be during class, like during my class time.
Yeah.
And so, just inviting other instructors, other students, or whomever, just come by and kind of ask them questions, put them under the spotlight a little bit in that way.
Yeah.
With a poster, a big poster on a tripod type thing.
I love that. When you decide to initiate that, email me and I'll force my students to head over there and help out with that.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think, kind of final thoughts here. That's another thing that I want to encourage you all to do. I have back to how we do what we do here in this department. We love working with other departments. I love it when a department will call me and go like, "Hey, we're doing this weird thing. You got actors, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah. What do you want? What do we do? How can we help?" But I am always a resource on campus for anything that you all need. Anytime you are having questions about student engagement, community engagement, if there are things you think the theater department can help your department with, let us know. Because I truly believe, and look, we all know it's right in front of us that with dual enrollment being 42% of our enrollment and 8-week classes in the online learning space, campus life is harder than ever to really manifest, right? Getting students back on the campus, getting them wanting to be here. I mean, it's tough at any commuter school, but the challenges are real. So if we can find ways as departments to work together, that's only going to benefit each other's students in the long run. Yeah. Again, thank you all so much for taking your time to sit today and chat about this. And again, if you all have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Chris. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording.
Go for it.
Boom.